Welcome back to the Aces Loaded podcast. We're with Josh Barfield, the Director of Player Development. And Josh, you have such a special organization, right? And so many talented guys. Let's start right there. Who excites you the most in this organization?
It's like
a lot of guys to choose from, right?
Pick your favorite child.
It's a great line.
We have a lot of really talented guys, and I think just overall, this whole organization, top to bottom, we have talent at each level. We get guys that made it to the big leagues last year, and the Corbins and the Tommies and Nellies and those guys, and there's another wave coming. I think we're really excited about the Lawlers, the Del Santos, Slade, the Walstons. It's a number of guys, so it's a fun time right now with our organization.
Yeah, pitching staff's fantastic in the organization. If we were to, you mentioned all those notable guys. One guy that fans don't know that's coming up through the system that could turn some heads.
Yeah, I think a guy that's probably not too far away, kind of off a lot of people's radars, is Yoper Diaz. He's a guy that we got signed out of the Dominican, or actually from Venezuela, and didn't sign for a whole lot of money, didn't have a whole lot of fanfare. He came over here last year, his first time in the States, and he was able to climb 3 levels, big arm, up to 100, with a really good breaking ball, and just a poise about him that allowed him to handle the quick advancement. So he's a guy that we're really excited about.
And I praise you guys and what you do, especially because the Diamondbacks do have such a great organization. But in terms of spending a lot on free agents, you guys don't do that enough and do that a lot. And you guys pride yourself on developing these guys. How important has that been to develop the Carrolls, to develop the Lawlers throughout the past couple of years?
Yeah, it's really important, especially for an organization like us. We're not going to be able to spend the $300 million like some of these other clubs, but we feel like we can still compete and still win, but we have to do a really good job, especially with our free agents, with our draft picks, and just developing guys. So, guys like Lawler and Corbin, those guys, they come pretty polished. We don't have to do a ton with those guys, but it's some of these other guys. If we can, like Blaze Alexander is a perfect example of a guy that came in really talented. There was a lot of development that went into him, and now he's on the 40-man and knocking on the door.
Yeah, let's dive into Blaze. I've heard player comps to Derek Jeter and some high-level shortstops. What's so special about his game?
It's a complete package as far as tools. He's got a huge arm, probably the best arm in our entire organization from a position player standpoint. He can run, great athlete. He's become a reliable shortstop, which I think we're all really proud of him because he put a lot of hard work into that. And offensively, he's got power. He's getting better at making good swing decisions, and we just see some guys it takes a little bit longer than others. He's a high school kid, so that's to be expected, but he's really starting to come into his own now.
Yeah, we touched on Lawler. What's special about his game, and give me a player comp for him as well.
Player comps are always hard. They're really hard,
You know what it does though? It gives fans an idea, right, of a guy, of the kind of player they're working on.
Yeah. So Xander Bogaerts, I saw that one the other day. I don't think that's unfair. I can see him being a similar player, and just a really dynamic player. Really special talent offensively. Controls his zone exceptionally well. Uses the whole field. He's already got power, and I think he's going to continue to grow into more power. Can really fly on the bases. He's probably our best base stealer in the organization, and defensively, he's athletic and has the ability to play shortstop. So it's not a lot of guys that can do those things.
All right, let's move to the pitching side. Whether it's speed, stuff. Who's one guy that really stands out?
I think one that you can see, he's got a lot of talent right now, but you can see he's only going to get better and better as he gets more experience and gets bigger and stronger, is Blake Walston. I feel like he came in with a really talented crop of pitchers in that 19 draft, and he was the only high school pitcher out of that group, so a number of them have gotten AAA, even to the big leagues already. So he's moved a little bit slower, but if you look at what he's done so far along the way, the fact that he's left-handed, he's already got really good stuff, and it's just continuing to improve. I think as he gets into his physical prime, he's going to be a beast.
So many of those other guys, right? I mean, Tommy Henry, Dre James. You can go on and on, right, about these pitchers you have. But what's one thing you look at? Let's say with Dre, that he's really good at, and then maybe he needs to improve on.
Yeah. So I think one thing he's really good at, he's a good strike thrower, and he competes really well. And if you look at the numbers, and especially in AAA last year, they weren't great. but he's pitching in a really tough environment. But when we called him up to the big leagues, he took it up to another level, and that's just who he is. That's just his makeup. So love the way he competes. I think still working on being able to consistently land the breaking ball and shaping pitches. And I think, for a while you heard he's going to be a reliever down the road. I think we all believe he's got a really good chance to continue to be a starter.
What's one thing you tell guys, looking back on your career, that you want them to work on, and that's something that maybe you didn't do enough?
Yeah, I think just being self-aware enough to identify the things that you do well, but more importantly, the things that you don't do great, and working on those on a daily basis. And just being in the game now for a long time on both sides, like you see the great players, they have that commonality. They're always working to improve the areas of their game that aren't as strong, and that's what makes them such well-rounded players.
And then, give me what's your favorite baseball movie? Is that it's Moneyball, right?
Oh, I've actually never seen Moneyball.
What's up?
I've actually never seen Moneyball.
That's all right. That's all right.
Favorite baseball movie? I love Little Big League. It had real players in it, so that was always a favorite for me.
Who's one guy you looked up to growing up as a player?
My dad.
Yeah.
He was always my hero, and watching him play, he was always number one.
Yeah, your dad had a long career in the bigs. What was that experience like? I mean, you had to have so many different cool experiences meeting players around him and traveling to different cool locations too.
Yeah, so I think it prepared me really well for what I ended up doing in my career, playing in this. And the experiences you get in the time, you don't realize that it's unique. You just all your buddies, dads play, and you travel around all the time, go to a bunch of different schools and things like that. But looking back, I got to have a front row seat to a lot of unique baseball experiences, and got to be around my heroes growing up. Like outside of my dad, like King Griffey Jr. and Ricky Henderson and guys like that. Those are guys that I got to be around a lot, whether my dad was playing or coaching.
Any cool stories from being around those guys?
Yeah, so probably my favorite story.
We got him.
Going back, I was probably 7 years old, and my dad was with the Yankees at the time, and they were playing in New York, and we were sitting right behind Griffey's dad in the stands, my mom and my brother and sister, and it was a game. They show the highlight all the time. So Randy Johnson was pitching. My dad comes up. First at bat, he hits a home run, and that was his 199th career home run. His next at bat, he hits a ball. It was going out. That's the one Griffey runs and catches, and then comes running in. So that was Rob, my dad's 200 home run, and his dad was going crazy, and we were all sad. And he actually hit a home run his next at bat, so he would have 3 that game. So afterwards, my dad was always like the last one out of the clubhouse. It took forever, so we're playing in the hallway. Then Junior walks out. And I stop him, and I would never have done this.
How old are you?
Probably, 7 years old or so. And I was like, "You robbed my dad of a home run! Like you took food off my table." And he's like, "You're Jesse's kid?" I was like, "Yeah." So he's like, "Follow me." So he takes me back in the tunnel. We go back into the visitors clubhouse. He signs a bunch of balls, bat, stuff I still have to this day. Took a bunch of pictures with me, and ever since then, he was always great. He would always looking out for me, would send me stuff when I was wearing all the Griffey gear when I was in high school, and then I was fortunate enough to get to play against him in the big leagues.
Oh, that's so cool, man. What's one thing that surprised you about the job that you didn't know before you got into it?
I guess all that went into it.
Yeah.
Even being the assistant farm director, you kind of get a glimpse of what all goes into it, but it is a 24/7, 365 day job, and I enjoy it. It's a lot of stuff that you deal with, baseball wise, but then I guess I didn't expect so much. It's also just managing people, and there's so much that comes. 180 players and 70 or so staff members. There's a lot of different things that come up, so it's start to get used to it after a little while. But I think that was probably the biggest adjustment.
And then your favorite baseball movie? What is it?
Oh, Little Big League.
No, I thought you were going to say Moneyball. Moneyball was the right answer there.
No, I know what happens at the end.
They don't get a chance to correct
win the World Series at the end.
That's not what it's about. I've been pushing that. All right, man, this is fun. This is Josh Barfield, the Director of Player Development for the Diamondbacks. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.